Good evening. This is our first show, which Bill says it's a pilot. We'll take it. We'll call it a pilot. And this will be anywhere from a half hour to 1 hour, depending on how the mood strikes us. They say that Bill and I would never agree, and we finally decided to have a show which is called
Agree to Disagree.
We Agree to Disagree, and that's the name of the show. And we will have, during this, every other Monday, but in the political time, it may be every Monday, at 7 o'clock live, we will have events, which Bill and I will proceed with some of those. We will have guests, if there are guests, and if there is a guest, Bill will introduce him because he's a member of his clan. Then we will have an open forum where we'll discuss, and if a guest shows up, it'll be the guest. And if the guest doesn't show up, I would ask Bill to talk about the convention because he was there, and then I will talk about the Democratic convention because I wasn't there. Bill has a tendency of getting invited to things, and I don't, so that's the way that went. And the last one is a little point of view that Bill and I are going to participate in as the time goes by. What were they thinking? I don't know if people out there understand this, but people do things. We do, of course, but we don't give ours. But there are people who say things or do things. You say, what were they thinking when they did that? So we'll have a little bit of that in this show if we have time. It depends upon our guest and how much time he wants. Because years ago there was a fellow named David Susskind. The old timers will remember that. And he had a show called Open End. And it just went on until it was finished. So this show will go on for an hour, which is...
Until we're finished.
Well, that's when we are finished. We've been told we're finished before. Well, anyway, William, why don't you... And by the way, if we don't get a guest, my input was that we would introduce ourselves because people out there look and say, who are these guys? Where do they get off think they can talk about these things? We will introduce ourselves and we will explain ourselves. And once we explain ourselves, everyone will therefore be comfortable in saying, they have no idea what they're talking about. And that's all right.
It shouldn't take them too long to
Doesn't make them bad people.
No,
Does
not at all.
make them bad people. But that's what we'll do. We'll introduce ourselves if the guest doesn't show up. So we'll keep saying the guest because it's a surprise. It's a surprise guest. And anyway, Bill, you're going to start us off with things that are going to occur. This will be events coming up in this little town of Raynham or in around the surrounding areas.
Yeah, well, first, and I'd like to welcome our viewing audience. It may only be a couple. I know my wife Jan's probably watching, and she'll critique me later, and perhaps my kids.
Both of them are welcome.
Hopefully, between our families, we have maybe 5 or 6 viewers right now.
Well, that would be the Republican Party.
We're starting already. By the way, Don failed to mention that we intend on having some fun with this show.
We do.
Life's serious. We deal with a lot of serious issues every day. And we think that levity is an important part of our show.
We've done it on the phone for years.
Yes, we have.
We finally decided to take it out of the phone booth.
Take it and put it on the public.
Put it where?
Let the public deal with it instead of our family.
All right.
Okay. As Don mentioned,
Yep.
you may not know a lot about us. You probably know more about Don than I, he being a selectman for 4 decades, going into 5, if I'm accurate on that.
Yeah, they may or they may not, Bill.
They may or may not.
You're pretty famous
but,
yourself, don't you know?
But I'm more involved in the community non-televised events like the ball fields and boards that I sit on. So we'll talk about that maybe later today.
Definitely.
But what we'd like to do, and we'd like people to start to watch the show and tell us what's going on, things that we don't know about, and we'd like to get that out there, get the word out there that there's lots of things going on in the greater Raynham area every single week, and I get a lot of, geez, I wish I'd known that was gonna happening, or where could I get tickets? So we're going to see what we can do to help the public in Raynham know what's going on. First, Don's let me go first. First item I have here, interesting that I should get this, I get these bulletins because I work for the power company and security is important, and I got a security alert. It's funny, we have our first show, supposed to be last week, but I took ill and I got this weather warning for high winds. How appropriate is that you and I are going on the air and I got a high wind warning?
Is it hot air?
They didn't say how warm the air was, but they did
Well,
warn
Not talking to me.
tomorrow 45 to 55 mile per hour wind. So
Tomorrow.
it's either our show or we got a high wind storm coming. So people be prepared. By the way, did they get the date?
45, is that a lot?
55. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
pretty strong
All right,
winds.
okay.
Did the date appear on the show? Was people watching tonight? If it's replayed, I don't want them thinking next Friday they're getting high winds. So today's
So
Monday the 16th, is it? Today's
now see, there's the stopper. You found a way to stop us.
today's Monday the 17th, live.
Hmm?
Oh, you want me
So
to stop
once-
right there
when-
before we
no,
go on to the next
no,
one?
No, I want you to get the date straight on.
17th.
Seven,
right here on my,
17th is a Monday,
Yeah.
so it's next Monday.
Well, no. This weather alert is for tomorrow. It's not tomorrow. We may have high winds in here next Monday, though.
I want you to know we work for nothing. Now, someone will say that's what we're good for. But the point is, don't think you're listening to professionals that you say, that guy's going to lose his job. You don't understand. We don't have a job.
That's right.
This is not
You
a-
can't fire us.
No.
Well, we plan on making each other's life uncomfortable at times just for fun.
Well, today.
Yeah. Again, this was supposed to
Is
go
not
off.
today the 17th?
Yes. Yes.
Today is the 17th.
Yeah.
And
That's-
when's the wind?
The wind's tomorrow.
Which is the 18th.
The 18th, correct.
All
And
right.
pretty strong, too.
See, you got us off to a good start.
Yes, this show was supposed to debut last
Well,
Monday.
as long as we're enjoying ourselves,
Yeah, we're having fun.
that's simple.
So I had to cross a lot of things off that we were going to be talking about for our first show. As I laid in the hospital, I'm getting the sympathy now.
It works.
Oh, good. So I'm
worked for Al
taking
Porter
I'm
many
taking
years ago.
Pride Day off of here, which was yesterday.
Yeah.
But we do want to talk about that
What's that?
Pride Day.
Yes, definitely. I had that listed. Go ahead. Bill.
But so I'll finish these up. These are what I have coming up this week. The Taunton Animal Shelter. Okay, that's in Taunton, where a lot of our animals from Raynham are taken care of down there, and every year they have a yard sale. And next Sunday, 9 o'clock, they'll have their, I think it's their 7th, 8th, or 9th maybe annual yard sale. This is how they raise money to feed the animals that they try to keep around as long as they can, until hopefully somebody come along and maybe adopt them. So that affects us in Raynham as well. The animal. The guy in charge, what's his title down there? Manny Massa, a Raynhamite, great guy.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, he's been there for years. And he lives over on, I won't give his address, but he's been in charge of that animal shelter for years, does a great job. So if you'd like to attend the yard sale and do some good,
The people love yard sales.
Taunton Animal Shelter, next Sunday, 9 o'clock, West Water Street in Taunton. American Legion meat raffles, those happen every month. October 13th is the next one. It'll be the first one. We have run them all winter long. I say we because I happen to be a board member of the Sons of the American Legion of Raynham. They're going to start to get a sense of what Don and I are involved in. This
Well,
week.
yeah, that's right. You're involved in more than me now because I'm retired.
Yes,
Keep going.
but even though you're retired,
killing me.
that's still the, sorry, slowly killing. Okay, how about the Raynham Lions Club, which I'm not a member of, but my father was and
The
many
fact
friends.
they turned your membership down is not your fault.
No, it wasn't. I still think you blackballed me, but that's beside the
Well,
point.
that happens.
They have a great comedy show coming up on October 20th. Check those out. For $25, you can't beat them.
That's right.
And of course, the Raynham Lions Club does all kinds of things. They were very present in the Pride Day yesterday, again, which we'll get to.
They always give the hot dogs and the soda.
And, yeah, and I went over and enjoyed a big glass of water, again, the health.
Sure.
I'm a member of the Boys and Girls Club Board of Directors for about 20 years, and so that's kind of dear to my heart. They have a fall open house that's going to be happening Saturday, September 22nd, which is this coming Saturday at 10 o'clock, 10 to 4. They have all types of after-school programs and things, swimming, and a lot of our Raynham children participate over there. If you've never seen the Boys and Girls Club or checked out their programs, they have an open house this coming Saturday, 10 o'clock. And let's see, that was last week's. That one was last week. I think on that note,
Pass it back over?
I'm going to pass it over to you.
Okay. I've got the, at the senior center, which I naturally have the senior center, Barry Amaral, the Register of Deeds, is coming there at the senior center. It's September the 20th, so it's this Thursday, and he's going to give a discussion on the Homestead Act, and I believe for $35 they'll also process that Homestead Act. And for seniors, it's very important to get that done, because the Homestead Act basically was originally done for the people in the Western, Midwestern, because of the farms that were being taken in those days. But now, of course, the East Coast also has it. And it protects your home against being taken. And so for those who want further details, Barry Amaral, he's a former student of mine, Old Taunton High School, so he goes back. It's Joe Amaral for the townies I'm talking to now. Joe Amaral's son, Barry. He was on the council. Very nice guy, friend of mine. Friend of yours, Billy, you know Barry.
Yes, and his wife, Tony, sat with me on the Boys and Girls Club board as well.
So you know the family.
Terrific gentleman.
Yep.
I want to actually, Don just touched on his career path, which we didn't mention as a history teacher.
We'll get into that
Right.
later.
And the fact that you mentioned the homestead, it is so important for young folks too. I mean, people who have, like I have a lot of children, and they're, teenagers driving.
Sure.
Things can happen, and it's a way to protect your home in worst case scenario.
So you endorse this?
Absolutely.
Okay. Also, the library, but this won't be until the 25th, so that's next Tuesday, I believe. But that's at 6 o'clock in the library, and no one's going to believe this is true. Some of the things I say is true. This one here is true, though. I was amazed. The name is Joe Kennedy, is the fellow that's the photographer who went over to Italy and took pictures of Italy. And he's going to have a showing. And for those who are interested, some of his pictures are there in the library already. So if you'd care to go down to the Raynham Public Library during the regular day, they're already showing some of them. But then he will come in on the 25th of September at 6 o'clock, and he will give a discussion and showing his pictures. So I don't know if you have been to Italy, but it's probably one of the prettiest countries there is in the world. And I like it because you can get to many places for nothing. That's what and I'm Irish Scotch, you might have guessed.
The wineries have nothing
Member
to
of the
do with it.
Celtic race, yeah. And also, you went back on it, and I just wanted to say Raynham Pride Day was yesterday, and it was just a wonderful, and Kevin and Shirley Ellis, as always, do a wonderful job, and it's just, it's an annual event that really is worth visiting. There's no doubt about that, and everybody does. And I just will quickly tell you that Lou Pacheco, the former chief, and I participated in checking in on a recount vote in Raynham last Friday. And the reason I mention it is not because of the recount, but because of the fact that no votes changed, which in other words takes those poll takers and the workers and the town clerk and all, Marcia, how wonderful a job they did, that we worked there for a period of time. All of it was counted by hand, and it came out right on the money. So that's good news.
That's excellent news, especially going into a major election in November.
That's right, to know that they got it down good. And anyway, I think we're ready for the guest if we, she said we're gonna stretch this out a little bit, so.
Okay. How are we going to handle this surprise? We're kind of making our rules up as we go along.
Well, you'll introduce, because he's a member of your party. So I will say this to the people then, in introducing Bill and I again, is that Bill is a member of the Republican Town Committee. I'm a member of the Democratic Town Committee. We, in a careful way, always well-meaning, we've disagreed for many years over the phone or personally, and now we're doing it in front of the cable. But I will tell you this, which is, I'm sure our guest today is well aware of this. Unregistered votes in the Massachusetts is 2.2 million unregistered voters, 2.2. Democrats is basically, I'll say 1.5 million, and the Republicans is 471. So if you take the Republicans and the Democrats, in case either one of us thinks we've got the hand up on the other, the unregistered are more than both parties together. I think the reason I stay with the Democrats, and Bill speaks for Bill, but I believe in the two-party system. Obviously, I believe in premise of the Democratic Party, but I'm saying basically more than that, I believe in the two-party system. Many of Republicans and Democrats have decided to be unregistered because they take issue with the two parties. But we do see that they sort of gear back to their original party sometimes, and that's why my contention is that Republican candidates walk a thin line trying to rally the unregistered, which is, I think, I believe there's more of the Democrats than there are Republicans in the unregistered rolls. Does that sound right to you?
I think it's pretty accurate.
What do you mean agree with me?
Well, because
Yeah.
when you're right as far as the numbers go.
I know, we do this, yeah.
I want to premise really quickly. You mentioned I am also not just a member of the Raynham Republican Town
You're
Committee.
chairman.
I am the chairman,
And
and I'm bringing this up for this because of the particular guest we have.
information, yeah.
I'm also the elected Republican State Committee man for First Plymouth Bristol. So
I attended the convention.
Yes, I did. And I have from Taunton down to Wareham and Marion as my district. Unpaid, by the way. These are all volunteer political positions.
And the Nickerson name down in the Cape.
Well, we'll save that for another day.
save that for
and get
another
me in
day.
trouble.
No, that's not trouble.
Being a state committee person, when you're out trying to get candidates and you want good candidates, and when you have more than one vying for a position, it's your job to stay on the sideline and let the constituents decide which one they want to represent your party.
Yeah.
Now, what they did with Raynham, they went and split the little town of Raynham into 2 congressional districts, the 4th and the 8th. In fact, some precincts and even streets were sort of cut in half.
I know.
We were sort of the balancing actors so that they get an equal amount of voters.
We're not happy.
We're not happy. No, we agree again. Another one. That's another one.
2 for 2.
2 for 2.
This won't last long.
We had 3 candidates in the 4th congressional district on the Republican side. We had Elizabeth Childs. We had a dentist by the name of Dr. Steinhoff from Fall
He was
River.
on Pat Riley's show.
On Pat Riley's show. And we had from pretty well known because he ran in the last election and ran a tight contest against Barney Frank, and that's Mr. Sean Bielat.
And he was interviewed by a member of the staff also.
As well. Was it Mike, I believe, who did?
Michael interviewed him in Foxborough.
Okay. Having said all that,
Yes.
I think we can let the viewing public know who are.
We just have to play what they call musical chairs. We have to move one chair and then
Okay.
another. And I don't know if Bill has to. How are we going to do
I think
this?
am I going to move over here?
Are you
or,
going to change your mic?
Well, we will surprise them and surprise
Anyway,
ourselves.
Yeah. How are we going to do this, Alan?
While we bring in a surprise. Okay, sounds to me like 20 seconds one of us is going to break something. Is that what I'm understanding? Or we're taking a break?
Well, we're going to take a break. Are we going to take a break? Well, this is sponsored by Firestone Tire. No, I don't.
Does he get free tires for that? I want to know.
We don't have retreads.
Oh, retread.
But I get 'em.
It's a retread. Well, they did disavow any.
Are they breaking this? Is that what he's doing? See, these are.
Okay, we're back. As Don had alluded to earlier, we have a surprise guest on our show, and I'd like to welcome Sean Bielat our congressional candidate for the 4th District. Mr. Bielat, welcome.
Well, thank you. Glad to be here.
Nice
On your debut show. Congratulations.
That's right. Thank you very much.
Now, obviously, I'm on the right for a reason, at least for people watching.
For people at home.
People at home.
Yeah, you haven't been to my left before, so.
I will say that as a Democrat, and then Bill can join in, I would say Stephen Lynch, Joseph Kennedy, Mary Lee Hunt, the 3 people I would assume are coming on the broadcast at some time. We haven't got to confirm from all of them, but nonetheless. And Bill, who are the others on the other side?
Well, I know Angelo's been asked. Angelo D'Amelia, he's our current representative.
And he is running against Mrs. Hunt.
Yes. I have not heard yet in the 8th.
Stephen Lynch, I believe, is
Or
coming on board.
Joe Salvaggi.
Whether
I
Joe
don't
will
know
be
if he is
attending
or
or not,
not.
but
Right.
hopefully we'll have Joe also on the show.
Yeah.
We can even pull the show. Well, no, show's not up, are they?
No,
So we'll stick with the congressman and.
This is it. This is it. So,
This
Sean,
is it.
anyway,
What do you
thank
mean
you
this is
very
it?
much.
This is great.
This is how formal this is so far.
Yeah.
But I will start it off, and then Bill can join in. I would just ask, these are softballs, by the way.
I like
So
softballs.
That's good. This is personal information. What have you done in your life that led you to this path?
Well, in 2010, like a lot of people, I was unhappy with what was going on in Washington, lack of leadership on both sides of the aisle. And I took a look around, and my congressman, Barney Frank, was somebody who I saw as part of the problem in Washington.
Mm-hmm.
And I took a look around at the Republicans who were challenging him or might challenge him, and nobody really stepped forward who I thought could win, who had a good chance. So I got involved. I got into the race. Started meeting a lot of people, talking to people, building those relationships, building out an organization, and pretty soon we had something pretty cool. Because not only, I think the campaign went well in terms of how well we did in November, but in addition, we built up this group of activists who hadn't been here before. So when Scott Brown ran and won, there were a bunch of people who had never worked in politics before, never volunteered for a campaign, who got out and helped Scott. Then they did the same for my campaign. Now more are coming out. And so
How did it come percentage-wise? How were you there?
Oh,
against
43.
Barney Frank?
43.
43.
Right.
Well, that's a
Which-
viable number for a first time out.
Exactly, against a 16-term incumbent.
I
guess
so.
Who hadn't had
I
a
guess so.
challenge, a
That's
real
right.
challenge in a long
That
time.
was a good job.
But-
What did you do prior, though? In other words, what leads you to
Sure.
this?
I'm a Marine. I spent 4 years on active duty. I've been in the reserve for 10 years now.
Right.
I did my undergraduate at Georgetown University. I did a Master in Business Administration at Wharton School of Business.
Mhm.
I did a Master in Public Policy at Harvard. I've spent most of the past decade in business. So first at a management consulting firm at McKinsey & Company, where I consulted to very large companies on growth and strategy and profitability. I went to a smaller company here in the Boston area called iRobot, where I ran a $100 million product line of defense robots. So these are used to go after roadside bombs in Iraq and Afghanistan. After that, I did some independent consulting, primarily to small tech firms, and now I run an online startup. So the theme here is, in a time where...
Are you a this-time consultant? Sean?
no, now I'm running this startup.
Oh, okay.
So the theme is, in a time where jobs in the economy are the biggest issues we face as a country, I think it's useful to get more people in office who have experience in jobs in the economy, and people who don't want to make a career being in office.
Sure.
And I fall into those categories.
Well, it sounds like excellent credentials. William, on board.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of conventional, typical questions that get asked. We'll get to a little bit of the meat.
Sure.
Young Mr. Kennedy is obviously very, very young. He really is just out of school. And primarily his strength is his name.
Yes.
He just beat 2 viable Democratic candidates who had history, background, had done quite a bit in their lives, and they didn't have a prayer against him
Sure.
because of his name.
Right.
Not to take, I don't mean to completely discredit everything he's ever done, but still very young and really hasn't accomplished much yet. You really are battling a name.
Yes.
And how does one formulate a victory strategy against a name like Kennedy?
Well, there's a lot of voters who don't buy into that. They may like the family name, but they want to know who this Kennedy is. That he is a Kennedy is sufficient as it used to be to get people out to vote. So the challenge for us is just making sure they also know who Sean Bielat is and they know the choice. And on November 6th, they go in and they make a choice between two people based on their issue positions and their backgrounds. I think we're well positioned to do that. We have a great volunteer base. We have a great organization, getting out every day, doing a lot of this community TV and a bunch of other things to be involved in the communities in the district and to get to know the new town. So far everything's coming together really well. He has that name ID advantage. It's not that huge a factor. Money is a bigger factor. He has raised huge amounts of money. And so the question is going to be, can you buy an election? If the answer is yes, then he wins. If the answer is no, then it should be an interesting election.
Now, I don't know if you did. I know Bill has read the Republican platform because he went to the convention. But I think one of the reasons, of course, I suppose that people lose confidence in the political world is the fact that really the two major parties, both of them, Democrat and Republican, spend hundreds of hours preparing a platform, A, that nobody reads, and B, that nobody cares about. So 90% of the candidates are disavowing the platform. So my question to you, Sean, would be, does that platform mean anything to anybody? And do you differ with it somewhere in a major area? Because that's one of the things that each of the candidate has to wear.
Sure. First, I have to admit my ignorance. I, like most candidates out there, probably have not read the platform.
That's right. That's most people.
I do think that they're useful in that they give you some very clear lines of differentiation.
Sure.
I think they're I wouldn't say extreme views, but they're definitely the views that, either end of the ideological spectrum. And I think they're useful in that way. It wouldn't be much fun if both parties were having platforms very close to the center. It might be more effective. It might make for better outcomes.
It will also be called a miracle.
Exactly. Exactly. Although there was that, it's not a dime's worth of difference. That was a long time ago. So yeah, it's not. It hasn't been something that's been on my mind. Last time around, there was the document that came out that the House put out. The House Republicans, not contracted with America, which was the '94 version, but the newer one. Same thing there. It came out.
That's no new tax pledge. You don't mean that one.
No. There was a plan. I forget what it was called, but it came out in the day it did. I started getting press calls and people said, "What do you think of this?" And I said, "I had no idea it came out till you called me." It was brand new.
Sure,
nobody consults the candidates. Nobody asks for it.
Yeah.
So I don't feel particularly tied.
Bound by it.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. William.
Yeah. Well, I know as you get down to the lower tier levels of the platform, that's where you start to see a lot of the Democratic people actually align more with the Republican platform and vice versa. But when it comes to the substance of the platforms, it really boils down to big government or not big government. I mean, and that's pretty much how I think people perceive the platform to be. Either the government does for you or you do for the government. And I really don't think that there's much difference when you get really down those little sub-tier items in the platform between the two parties. I mean, some are significantly different.
Sure.
I mean, there was some that's a whole other conversation. In fact, it became a big bone of contention at the state committee meeting on the state platform. Anyways, I think when it comes to the actual Republican platform, and I know, having known John running in the prior election, he meets all the meat and potatoes of the platform as it was just accepted down in the convention. So, anyways,
yeah, I think so. I mean, I'm very focused on free market principles. That's not to say, most Republicans and I and most of America accepts that we need a social safety net. I believe it should be small. I should believe that it should be focused on those most in need. I believe that we need to save our entitlement programs, but that requires reforming them. I believe in fiscal discipline and finding market solutions wherever we can. That guides my views on most issues. So it's that set of principles around which I build specific, issue positions.
It would seem to me that one of the things that I would not want to have happen to me, the best candidate, I believe, watching the debates prevailed. But the best candidate wrote the health law, which was sort of that the Democrats used to go national. And therefore, the poor guy ends up spending a lot of his time apologizing for something and saying, I'm going to stop it by the time I get in. My question is, what is your opinion of the health law that that governor wrote and had signed into law in Massachusetts, which we have now. What
Well,
about that health law?
I actually agree with Governor Romney's position that it should be, that was a good solution for Massachusetts. 84% of people in Massachusetts approve of Romney Care, or what's become called Romney Care. It's not the right solution in Texas or Mississippi or California. I think it makes a lot of sense to allow states to have wide discretion in what they do within their borders. Where the federal government should be involved is in regulating true interstate commerce. So allow healthcare providers and insurers to compete across state lines. Increase competition. That's going to drive down costs. It's going to expand coverage, as it always does in any competitive industry. So I think also, it was a monstrosity of a bill, just procedurally. Forget all, what you think about the overall. Nancy Pelosi saying, well, we'll find out what's in it once we pass it. These huge bills, nobody reads them. They're hundreds and hundreds of pages long.
True.
They give all this power to entities that haven't even been formed to regulate. And so essentially you don't know what you're getting until it's enacted, which was really what Nancy Pelosi was saying, Speaker Pelosi at the time. And that's problematic. No matter whether you like the legislation or you don't, whether it's Republican or Democrat, that's the wrong way to pass bills. And the result is always going to be what we're seeing right now, which is uncertainty, a lot of new taxes, a lot of new regulation.
The former governor did make mention of the fact that he was in favor of granting insurance for people who had preconditions. Later on, Bill and I are going to discuss careers, and I was a rating statistician, and I can tell you, if I were an insurance company, I would definitely lose some sleep over that statement, because to my way of thinking, and I'm not against it now, but I'm just saying it's the most expensive in the package.
Yep.
If we're going to yell at Obama for the package, then you have a candidate that took the most expensive thing out of the package, lifted it, and said, oh, by the way, I'm in favor. This sounds like a pretty good idea to me. Where do we stand on that, Sean?
Well, I mean, it is a real question, right? So one of the things that intuitively makes sense to me is the idea that you, rather than regulate, if you have a specific negative outcome that you're trying to mitigate, is direct payment for that. So it would make more sense to have a more limited, Affordable Care Act, not require insurance companies to do a specific thing, but then be prepared to make a direct payment in support of that premium. It's a much more efficient way to allocate.
Socialism.
No, it wouldn't. It would
only
be,
only having fun.
Okay.
I apologize to you and to your family.
Okay, thank you.
I like to talk
Offense
to
taken.
Republicans. They always call me socialist, so I have fun once in a while. But it is that way. William, go ahead.
Isn't that way?
Okay.
Is this fascinating?
It's a payment for a specific, it's like a premium support
Selective
structure.
socialism, I should have said.
It's a premium support structure like you see in the Ryan Medicare plan.
Don's afraid someone's going to be pushing him over a cliff in a wheelchair. I know.
I hate that stuff. I hate the scare tactics.
All going down.
It won't be me. I'm going to change directions a little bit. If I had to think of the distinct advantages you have on this election, first of all, the Senate, we don't know how that's going to go, but the House, it looks like it's pretty securely going to be a Republican House at the end of this year, in November. That's probably the one thing that as a Republican, I'm pretty confident about. So having a Republican congressman from Massachusetts certainly is not going to hurt Massachusetts.
Exactly.
That has to be that's a huge advantage to be working in a House that's going to be Republican controlled.
If you have the choice between two freshmen, the one with the majority party is going to be able to do more.
And they actually did the Republicans a favor in the gerrymandering this time, because they made the district, well, they did. The 4th is actually more favorable.
Much more favorable.
To conservatives.
Much more favorable. It's now 52% unenrolled independent, whereas last time it was 50. The generic Republican registration has moved from 12% to 14. The generic Democratic percentage has moved from 36 to 32. It's a much fairer district. And when you look at the voting outcomes in this district, Mary Connaughton won 52-48 when you tab up the votes. Charlie Baker lost by half a point if you just do the head-to-head with Deval Patrick. It's a very competitive district, and it's a much more level playing field than it was last time.
Well, Charlie and yourself both did about 68% in Raynham, but so they split us right down the middle.
I know.
I don't know. Did they put you in the 4th or the 8th?
I'm in the one that, I'm in your district.
Oh, you're in the
4th.
So
Right.
we'll
So I got to
going
win
down.
your vote tonight.
That's right.
You got to try to win.
Think social.
Okay.
Well, what they did with our little town, as you probably have seen, is cut it up. I've never seen anything quite like it in
No,
such
I know.
a small town.
And nobody knows where
We're
they are.
13,000, so 65 and 65, 6,500 each. But I have said to anybody who will listen that whoever does win should represent the whole town of Raynham and not worry about
Yeah, of
what
course.
street
Of course.
they
That's how I'm
represent or what.
campaigning too.
That's
Because
I like,
it's too
I like
hard to
that.
divide that up. You
Yeah,
know, I mean,
And
I like
that way
that.
we will have two reps.
Yeah, I
because
like
in
that glass
reality-
half full approach that we're going to have 2 reps, congressional reps
exactly.
in Raynham.
That's right.
Yeah, we should do all right.
as long as they're both Republicans. Huh?
You're
Stay
outnumbered
tuned.
tonight, but next time I'm outnumbered
Yeah,
too.
that's right. Well, now we're talking about that. Funny you mention that. What about Medicare? Now I know the Republican pitch is you don't have to worry about it, you old folks. You know, the seniors don't have to worry about it now. But that means that then, wait a minute, does somebody have to worry about it? Well, no. If you're under 55, you're going to experience the change. So as a person asking you a question, why don't we put Medicare under the Republican philosophy in the day that they start? Why not do it for people my age? Why not do it for people 55 up to my age?
Well, I think there's several reasons. One is just the political feasibility of it. That would create an uproar. People don't like
People would vote
uncertainty.
against you.
Yeah,
I know.
exactly.
That happens.
But also, it will take some time to get everything set up. The third version of the Paul Ryan plan, the second one he did with Ron Wyden, who's a liberal senator from Oregon, they cooperated on that. And then the third version made some refinements. But essentially what it does is it enables people within the Medicare system, recipients, to either choose traditional Medicare or get the premium subsidy model and take it into the private sector for approved plans. So essentially it's a healthcare exchange or the traditional Medicare option. So all the demagoguery about, we're going to tear up the social safety net and Paul Ryan's pushing the granny off the cliff and all that is just that demagoguery. In point of fact, seniors will still have people on Medicare will still have the opportunity to pick.
Person 54 will still be able to sign up for Medicare.
Yes. Yes. One criticism that's come from conservatives is, hey, it takes a really long time to reach a balanced budget with this approach, because it is more of an incremental approach. It isn't ripping off the Band-Aid.
How does it balance the budget?
Over a period of about 28 years, you reduce costs by increasing competition. I mean, that's always going to be true, and so that's a big portion of it. When you combine that with cuts to discretionary spending and a number of other things, projections of growth, it gets to a balanced budget over a very long period of time.
28 years.
Yeah, it's a long time. It's better than nothing. It's a good start. It's a good discussion document.
But see, historically what happens in the political world, and we do this in this area, I'm talking about the railroad going to New Bedford and Fall River, every politician that talks about it after they are no longer in service.
Well, that's why we get
and so therefore,
that's exactly why we get no reform in entitlements, and everybody recognizes it's a train wreck, and everybody says, no, we can put that off. And then a lot of people out there are saying, no, it's too scary to fix. Last time, as soon as I mentioned Social Security in a debate with Barney Frank, the next day there were commercials up. Sean Bielat wants to rip up the social safety net, this and that. And you can't have a mature discussion if every time you open your mouth about potential solutions, somebody starts using scare tactics. I don't mind people disagreeing. That's good. That's healthy. Come and have that argument with me, but don't act as if my intentions aren't what they are, which is the same as yours, presumably, which is to have a better
For the
America
good of the
tomorrow.
general.
Yeah, exactly.
William?
I think I'll go global on this question because Sean does have a military background and it's international. What's been happening in the last week is just so sad throughout the Middle East and so many of the Arab countries, and what happened with our embassy and a number of the consulate and a number of other embassies as well. Do you think, is this handful of thugs, or do you really think that this is the mindset of the majority of the people in these countries? I like to think that it's just groups of thugs.
I don't think it's a majority by any stretch, but when you have a billion people in a faith or close to it, a small percentage is a large number. And that's what we've seen with Al-Qaeda and a number of the Islamist terrorist organizations over the past decades. And I don't think it's, I think it's part of something larger. It's not by any stretch representative of the whole, but I do think it's larger than just a couple of thugs in Cairo and Benghazi and the other places where we've seen things.
Listening to the the experts, so to speak, on the national news network, when they talk about the funding that we help provide, a number of these countries, and we're disappointed in the response from some of the governments that we want to continue to do that because the sense of the feel is the majority of the people are still good people, we shouldn't just throw the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak, just because of all what we, because all it takes is just a small percentage of people to make a lot of people look bad.
But what's their incentive to fix the problem? What's their incentive to address these groups? If they're still getting the money either way, they may have the best intentions, but they don't have a very strong incentive to fix the situation.
Well, and again, I'll give you two, if you don't mind me asking, on the same segue into another question. Some of these countries, in my mind, and again, Don's a history teacher, he probably knows much better than I, these countries have tremendous wealth in oil. Why are we giving them millions of dollars when I see them with billions of dollars worth of oil reserves? What am I missing with that?
Well, I mean, obviously it depends on the country, and but generally speaking, we do have some strange positions on who we're giving aid to and how much. Rand Paul, who on a lot of issues a lot of people disagree with, but on one in particular he's gotten a lot of support, and that is taking away aid from Pakistan until they free the doctor who helped identify where bin Laden was during prior to the raid. He's been sentenced to 33 years in prison because his name was leaked, his identity was leaked to the press here in the U.S. He was arrested by the Pakistani intelligence service, and he's been detained since then and sentenced to a 33-year term. Rand Paul has said, hey, let's not give them any aid. A lot of people like that because it makes some sense. Same thing could happen in Egypt. Same thing could happen in Yemen. There's a lot of places where this approach could be applied. It's not much money in terms of our budget, but it does send a powerful signal, and it is impactful for the countries to whom we're giving the aid.
And I know it's not much perhaps in our budget. Our budget doesn't have much. So right now, to me, every nickel dime kind of
Well, that's right. I mean, that $1 billion going to Egypt instead of to somebody here in the,
exactly.
a set of projects here in the U.S., we don't want to see that right now.
Yeah.
It was mentioning Ron Paul.
Rand Paul.
Rand?
Yeah.
His son.
His son.
Oh,
The
is-
senator
yeah.
from Tennessee.
No, but who's the fellow that ran for president?
Ron Paul.
Ron Paul.
Ron
That's his
Paul.
dad from
Yeah.
Texas.
I had a
Ron
shirt. I
Paul,
should have
to
brought it.
me, is the closest thing to an independent party as there could be, except he doesn't have enough money to do it, and he's closer to my age than yours, and so therefore he isn't going to try to start an independent party. I happen to agree with him on the military aspect, which
That's
is
so
for
funny because
another
I
day.
have no agreement with
I know
him
you
there,
do.
but I like a lot of his
That's-
domestic
see,
ideas.
that's
I
what I
love
mean.
domestic too.
Yeah.
Yes, he really can upset a person because he either does it on purpose because he has a great sense of humor, or he's one third-party person. That's what he is. But let me get back domestically here to a fellow named Ryan. Now, where I come from, Ryan's a great name. I mean, everybody's Irish in Woburn, where I come from. So Ryan's a great name. But he's doing something, which I won't mention the Democrat that did it one other time. He's running for vice president, but he's leaving his name to run the same position you are. He's running for rep in his home district. Does that give you a little bit of a qualm of covering his bet that if he doesn't, what's he saying? If he's going to Vegas, oh, and by the way, I still want to take out papers from my local. I don't know where that leads, but let me corner the issue more.
Obama
Yeah.
did the same when he was Senate. He didn't leave the Senate.
And so Lyndon Baines Johnson.
Yeah, I mean, I think
I
it's
didn't.
pretty
I didn't
common.
want to
Yeah.
give you Democrats.
Yeah.
I mean, this is.
Oh, you're going to get that back
No.
from both of us anyway.
This was this a softball?
Yeah, it was.
You're welcome. There's no charge. There's no
Appreciate
charge.
it. Thank
No,
you.
these are all included.
No charge for that one?
That's right, nothing. But I will, because I'll corner it down and say that Mr. Ryan, as far as women's rights are concerned, I wouldn't want to have his voting record and his legislative packages in the House and trying to explain himself to the world. And I'm asking, will you have faith in him? Is your feelings that Mr. Ryan, Representative Ryan, has the right thoughts as far as women's rights are concerned or women issues are concerned?
Well, first of all, I think, you know, and I don't mean to be cliched here, but the women's issues are all of our issues, okay? So they don't just exist below the waist. Women are concerned about their families, they're concerned about the economy, they're concerned about jobs. In an age in which more women than men are graduating from college and 52% of people who graduated in the past 3 years don't have jobs, that's a woman's issue. So there's a lot of things where, yeah, absolutely, I agree with them because they're about the issues that affect us all. Those are the most important social issues. The other stuff comes
Well,
up.
most important social to you.
Ask the people in Fall River. 12% of people in Fall River are out of work.
Okay.
You know,
That's more important
than most things that they're facing right now. When you're trying to pay the rent and you know, feed the kids, that's.
I believe we have a minute. Are we going to lose Sean? Which is time for one question.
Okay.
What I'd like to do is just
Then have a sum up. Why don't we give Sean?
Give
I
the
didn't
1
realize. I
minute.
got quarter of. When did we start? Was it a 1 hour show?
This must be fascinating TV right now.
That's okay. This is what we want. It's loose. It's informal. And what I'd like to do is I'd just like to give my time to Sean to give an opportunity to
Sure, the final.
please
Oh
offer
yeah, I didn't realize it was
anything you'd
coming
like
down to quarter of.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
That's
Sean,
fine.
it's all yours, my friend.
Please do. Yeah.
Well, this is an important year. At the presidential level, at the vice presidential level, wherever you look, there's some stark choices to be made, Senate, Congress. And I think people are going to have to choose between two basic philosophies. And the one says that the way we get out of this mess that we've been in for so long is to have the government make more choices and spend more money and decide for us how we should do things. The other says, you know what, the way we get out of this mess is by doing something different, by allowing individuals to make choices, by allowing businesses to succeed, by telling people, here's some predictability so you can make choices and invest and take care of your family and grow your business. I represent that second choice. I think Joe Kennedy, from what I can tell, is running on his family legacy, and the Kennedys have always represented a certain brand of liberalism. I think it had its day. I think there was a period of time when people wanted that. I think it's past, though. I think we're in an era where people have had one-party government in Massachusetts for far too long. I think we're at a time where people are saying, you know what, we've got to change things if we want something different. And maybe in 3 years, 6 years, 8 years, maybe things are different. Maybe then people want that approach back, the liberalist approach. But right now, that's not what people are looking for. That's not what I'm hearing from people around the district. And I think we need to send people to Washington and to Beacon Hill who have relevant backgrounds. Right now, with a lot of stuff going on in the international security arena, it's good to have people with military backgrounds in Congress. With the economic issues we face here in Massachusetts and nationally, it's good to have businessmen in Congress and on Capitol Hill. I don't want to make a career out of this. I want to go down for a couple of years, do some good, come back. I had the same approach with the Marine Corps. I spent a couple of years on active duty, did some good, came home. You know, this is something, a particular time and place in history where I think I have a skill set that can be advantageous to the people of Massachusetts, the 4th District, and ultimately to the country.
Thank you very much for coming in, Sean. We're looking
you.
forward to the debates, which I'm assuming that both you and Mr. Kennedy will have, and let us know the time and the place, and Billy and I will watch.
Great.
So thank you for being a debut
thank
victim
you.
on our show.
Appreciate it.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Good to meet
it.
you.
Nice to meet you, Sean. We thought we had. Talk about the convention.
Oh, okay, and we're back. Again, Don and I are going to wing this show as we go along, and we want to continue to try to improve and give Raynham folks something that they like. We're going to be open for
It's
ideas.
totally different.
Totally.
There's no structure.
We
But I do want to hear Bill's input into the convention, because he's one of the few that I know personally who have gone to the conventions, and it was a national convention, with all due respect to the local ones, which we've all gone to then,
Oh, it was the
more
state.
than we care to admit.
the
But
state
William,
convention.
would you please give us something on,
Sure.
on the, on the
First of all, and I want to thank our producer, Mike, and the director.
did an excellent job.
And
Alan
I think
said-
last name Alan.
He doesn't have a last
I
name.
didn't have a last
just go
name.
on.
Well, again, for taking the time having us on tonight.
You're a friend of King Philip's. so
If this seems like we're a little bit amateurish a
No,
bit.
we're not.
Okay, we're not. We're
This
we're
is terrific. You kidding
it's
me?
live.
I know.
Okay, let me just start with a quick history of how I got elected.
Please.
You gonna stay awake during this? I could bore you to
Well,
tears.
no, I love this stuff. Are you kidding me? This is why I'm here.
Okay. There are the national convention is obviously where you go and pick your nominee to run for president and vice president, and you also have a platform that we discussed with Sean Bielat.
Sure.
And the different parties, not just the Democrats and the Republicans, but the Green Rainbow, they all have a convention. I'm not sure how many major parties there still are anymore. The big ones, of course, are the Democrat and the Republicans. The Republicans have 41 delegates, and their job is to go down there and vote for who that state or Commonwealth
41 from Massachusetts.
from Massachusetts, and then whoever gets the majority of all the delegates across the country is the nominee for president. Now,
And your delegation, Massachusetts, was right down front because you're one of the 8 states that the governor lives in.
one of the 8 states. I
true?
am from the
4,
state
I'm
where
sorry,
he
4.
was the governor
Oh, I see,
of.
I
Mr.
I
Romney.
apologize. I'm
Yeah,
spending
it's
most
okay.
of my time apologizing. I'm
And
very
yes,
sorry.
we were blessed with seats right down in front, and a lot of people told me that they saw me on the camera.
They did.
And
I did.
Hopefully they weren't eating at
I
the
did.
time,
I did. No, you look good. Look like you know what you were doing.
sitting there and applauding
No.
and being proper.
I'm going to be nice.
Okay, now how does one get elected? There's actually 9 congressional districts, and Sean's running for one of them against Joe Kennedy III. And each one of those congressional districts elects 3, and you can go to a caucus and put on your best speech, and everybody who's there from your party will decide which of you 3 deserves to go down there and represent the state. That's where 27 of them come from. There's also 27 alternates in case the first 27 get into a car accident or something like that. Okay. Now, your state committee elect 11. That's the route I went, where somebody nominates you and seconds you, and the state committee, which there are 80 members, there's 80 Democratic as well as Republican, 40 men and 40 women from all the different senatorial districts. They vote for the 11 delegates and alternates, and I was fortunate enough to get enough votes to be one of those 11 to attend in Tampa. Couple of things. I did bring you, Dawn, a souvenir from the convention. I know, being a historian, have you ever heard of the Heritage Foundation?
No.
Well, you will. This is a pin from the convention.
I figured I was going to get the heritage, so I
Yeah,
said I didn't.
yeah.
I've never heard of it. No.
Well, okay, so you can look. It's a think tank for Republicanism, so I'd like to look into that. Okay.
You mean the Republicans go in the tank, Bill?
I'm more of a conservative.
Oh,
Okay, and I believe in the future, maybe in the next show, Dave's going to show a little video. I took my my camera, which today is these techie guys know everything.
Yeah, I know they do.
You can videotape, geez, for an hour with on a little chip, and I got lots of pictures of balloons flying.
Super.
And shot the
So they're going to show that
coming down on
next
me.
Monday.
Next Monday? Okay, we got thumbs up from our producer / director. Yep, Mr. Spielberg said we're good on that next Monday.
next
Okay.
Monday.
I will show a couple of items that I'm not going to give away to Mr. McKinnon because I was fortunate, and by the way, thank you to all of you involved in me getting elected to be a delegate. It is an honor.
It is an honor, sure it is. Of
Distinct
course it is.
honor.
Yeah.
It's you're part of history, and I can't begin to tell you how much I appreciated that opportunity. Real quickly, a little bag that I have here, I'm just going to show you what the GOP mascot was. Thought you'd be interested in seeing. You could have guessed that it was an elephant, couldn't
Yeah,
you?
I thought it was a goat.
You got the RNC thing on there.
Oh, 2012.
Got
A book by Mitt Romney? Not,
Says Bill Nick.
No. On the back end.
I apologize
Mr.
again.
Romney's book.
There's no reason for me to do what I just did.
Which I don't want to be pushing
Romney's-
books.
Oh, he writes books
Well, that's
too?
okay. This is a private cable. Couple of quick things.
Princess in
Yeah.
China?
If you want to go incognito, they give you some glasses. And if you're sitting close to each other, they give you some mints, breath mints. That's for your benefit. And there's the other thing that I brought on because I think it's important. I was going to mention is, aside from the bag,
Okay.
the security down there, because you're talking the nominee for president of the United States, and it must be even stronger, I would guess, with the president himself
Well, it should be
in
the same.
North Carolina.
Should be the same.
Was unlike anything I'd ever seen before in my life. It was like going through 3 or 4 different prisons, practically, with the guards and the guns and the sniff dogs, and they checking your credentials. And every day they issue you, this is the Massachusetts badge, they issue you a new set of credentials.
Oh,
Every day you have a meeting, and this was the first day, that's day 1, and you can't go anywhere or get into anything without wearing that around your neck. And if you go outside of the territory of the security perimeter, you could end up in a black limo getting hauled away somewhere, so you want to hide these. But you needed these each day. They gave you a new credential. That's day 2, and that gets you on the floor down there in Tampa. So security was unbelievable, and it's such a shame in this day and age
I know.
that they have to spend
I
the
know.
millions of dollars that they do to hold these conventions.
Yeah.
But it was an honor to be there.
Sure, of course it was.
I wish everybody had an opportunity in a lifetime to be delegate at least
Yeah.
one time.
I've gone to the state conventions. Have you gone to many of them? And after a while, you know, but the national is really wonderful, I'm sure.
It really was. I guess the thing that would be lacking that you would appreciate, I'm sure, is that
Appreciate
in
everything.
both cases, the nominee for president was predetermined, and so everybody knew who the nominees were going to be, both President Obama and Mitt Romney.
So therefore it was a done deal.
Yeah.
Very quickly then, we
Yep.
have a minute to go, so let's go into, I gave you one, I think because of the timeless of this show. What would they, how come they did that? What was our premise? What were they thinking when they did something? And
Yeah,
you
and-
had something
and that-
in yours,
well, that-
and we had something in ours.
My what was we're thinking is, what were they doing choosing Tampa in the middle of August in hurricane
Okay.
season?
All right. and mine was, first of all, for the Republicans, what were they doing taking a dramatic actor who decided to be a comedian for the first time in his life prior to the nominee coming on board? And then for the Democrats, why did they rent a huge stadium? We call it stadium, it's
80,000
good,
seats
and then decided not to go to it because they said it was going to rain, which it wasn't going to rain, but they just realized nobody was going to come, and so therefore, what were they thinking? So we will have that as part of our show as the time goes on. What were they thinking when they do these things? Which just shows people, they may appear very bright. Some of them aren't, though, Bill.
No, they're not.
Thank you all very much for attending.
Yeah, oh,
All
absolutely. No,
those
we
out
may
there,
or may not
both
have
of
a
you
guest.
people out there, we appreciate your.
Yeah, next week we may or may not have a guest.
We never know because Michael is that way. We may or may not have a desk.
A desk. Oh, that's right. We worked
That's
for
another
these.
story.
Okay, but we will be back either next week or the following, same time.
And at same time, 7 o'clock, and we will give backgrounds of each other. You know, we'll each take turns introducing ourselves to say who we are, and then we'll go into
all kinds
agree
of
to
stuff.
disagree.
Well, thank you very much for viewing, and again, we'd like to hear back what you think of the show.